Welcome back to Close Up. The field in the 1st Congressional District is starting to shape up on the Republican side. Some fresh faces are emerging, but we also have one candidate who ran last cycle and wants another shot. That is Army veteran and businessman Chris Bright, who joins us this morning on Close Up. Chris, thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
So you were here just a few months ago, kind of in exploration mode. Now you're all in. You finished, I think, what, 4th or so in the last one. How do you climb the ladder? How do you improve on that last result and get there to that nomination in this race?
Sure. I mean, last cycle at this time last year, when that first poll came out, might have even been you guys, I was polling at 0.0%. And, we had some, name recognition issues, obviously, fundraising. All that's completely different this time around. We've come out to get it really strong. We've got a lot of support, a lot of grassroots support, a lot of establishment support, and fundraising has been there. I think last cycle with fundraising, you had the presidential going on, you had the governor's race, and across the board in CD1, there was not a lot of fundraising activity. And so for that reason, I wasn't able to really deploy those type of assets to get that kind of name recognition. What we did was we focused on some social media and really trying to build that network, and that carried over. I still have that now. So we're in a much different spot this cycle. I've got a much better working knowledge of how the process works, put together a really solid team, and honestly, it feels like an entirely different race.
Yeah, the most important thing in any Republican primary is often the backing of President Donald Trump. You famously said the last time around, sitting in that chair in December 2023, I asked, are you a 100% supporter of Donald Trump? And you gave a nuanced and thoughtful answer, but it might not have been exactly what the base wanted to hear. So this time around, are you a 100% supporter of President Donald Trump?
See, that's the thing. You get asked these things about individual people. I'm a policy guy, and I can't see any situation where I'm going to agree 100% with everything that any politician or leader has done. I think he's doing a great job this cycle. I really do. Everything from the economy, what he's done with the border, how he handled the Iran situation. I really think he's navigating a very complex geopolitical world quite well. There are things in this cycle he's done already that, yeah, I don't agree with. Like you and I were talking off camera, I'm a civil affairs officer in the reserves. We do a lot of geopolitical work around the world. One of the biggest, assets that we had when we would go into these kind of hostile areas was USAID. And the way that was dismantled, I didn't totally agree with. But again, you look at these different, DEI and the programs that had permeated that, it got off track. I understand why they did it the way they did. I probably would not have done it the same way. But that's okay, right? Like, that's the type of politics that I want to get back to. Just because I don't agree with 5–10% of the policy issues that Donald Trump has put forth, I'm not going to go out there and protest or, kind of say he's not my president. It's okay to disagree. It's okay to have good civil discourse. So, again, with respect to a lot of the policies that he's rolled out in this first cycle, I'm very supportive of. I think we're starting to see some of the positive effects of that. But yeah, I can never say that I agree 100% with anybody.
But he's going to want that. If you want his endorsement, right? He's going to want loyalty.
I think Donald Trump, when you look at people like J.D. Vance, never Trumper, Marco Rubio came out against him. I think Donald Trump is not looking for, like the No Kings thing really kind of made me shake my head a little bit. He's not looking for that. He's looking for people that buy into the types of, the direction that we're going and a lot of these different initiatives. And I support that, right? So our values and our viewpoints align, and that's how I look at who I support is really, are your principles in line with, what's in the best interest of Granite Staters? And if they are, I'm on board with you. If they're not, I have the courage to speak up and say, is there a different way we can do things?
Yeah, he's going to be a dominant aspect of the midterms either way, but what do you want to make your top issue in this race?
So I'm an economy guy right now. I think that, where the economy is going, I think there's positive, aspects of it. I am very focused on the rising threat of China. And I think with respect to, this federal race, first of all, there's only one Republican in federal seats across all of New England. So we have to just get a seat back at the table. And once we have a seat at the table, because New Hampshire CD1 is going to be so influential in the balance of power this coming cycle, we're told it's going to be one of the top 5 seats in the country because of redistricting in North Carolina or Texas and some other political headwinds, that creates leverage. And that gives us an opportunity to really bring some things back to this state. So the economy is something I'm focused on. I do think that we need to put some, some policies into place to check China. The Belt and Road Initiative that was started in 2015 is just about done. And it's locked up 100-year trade agreements with 50% of the world's GDP and 75% of the world's population. Like, that's done. And they have this stated intent to kind of erode our manufacturing base. We need to protect that for future generations. So that's going to be something I'm going to be focused on. Strengthening our military. I think, when you have a strong military that projects, strength, it's a deterrent. And while we're not looking to get into all these endless wars, I think we need to continuously reinvest in those types of things. So, economy, protecting women, women's sports. I've got daughters. I hear that across the district a lot. That's something that people are really concerned about. And even though the border is seemingly closed, it was done by executive order. So we have to codify a lot of the initiatives that were taken a couple months ago into actual law, so that becomes a lasting effect.
You were just in the Mount Washington Valley. You're talking about the economy. State officials say Canadian tourism is down 30%. Do you think the president's push to make Canada the 51st state and the way he's treating Canada is impacting that tourism?
I think it's absolutely, yeah. I mean, and I heard that. I was out in Hampton as well. I heard numbers up to 50%. 50% of the Canadian population has not been coming to visit this year. But again, the economy is coming back a little bit, so Americans are having a little bit more to spend. So remains to be seen if this is going to be lasting, but I do think some of the adversarial statements made against Canada, there's another thing I don't really... do we really need to be making those kind of a statement? These are the types of things that, we kind of need to hold in check. And again, where's the representation from, our federal delegation kind of pushing back and saying these types of things are impacting Granite Staters, and there needs to be a voice that speaks up.
They're on break in Congress right now in Washington, but the entire city is being consumed by this Epstein Files controversy. Mm-hmm. Do you want to see all of the information released, redacting stuff in terms of victims and identifying folks who shouldn't be identified in terms of victimhood? Do you want to see all those files released?
I understand why people were frustrated with that. To me, this is a red herring. It's something that happened in the past. Obviously, Epstein isn't around anymore. And the other thing is, just because people were on that, plane or went over to that island, doesn't necessarily implicate them in some of the criminal activity that was happening. I would like to see us just move on and focus on the real issues that are affecting Americans every day now, and not get hung up on some of this, kind of theatrics and kind of adjudicating things that happened in the past.
So much of the base, though, wants to know. It's been a key issue.
Yeah, I know. They're rabid about that. Again, this is what sometimes being a moderate Republican in a primary race does to you, right? Like, you can't necessarily appease the folks that want to see that stuff. But I do think in the best interest of the country, we need to focus on issues that are actually going to make a difference in people's lives.
All right, Chris Bright, running for Congress in the 1st District. We'll see you out there on the trail and back here in a few months.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Adam.
Appreciate it.